Good morning from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. Actually, good afternoon from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. My name's Linda. I'm your certified trauma recovery coach, and welcome to Complex PTSD TV. Today I am actually live, and I wanted to go live for you because I have literally hot off the press information for you. And what I'm about to explain to you is condensed, but it's happened over an extensive period of time. So when I talk to you about this, I don't want you to think, oh, this is easy and I can do it chunk, 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 chunk. Everything that I'm about to explain to you is like culminations of many years of work, and it's come together, and I will put it together for you in a format where you can use it individually, because we must always remember with complex PTSD, it's individual. Now, today we're going to talk about nightmares, we're going to talk about the abandonment wound, and we're going to talk about our core self. Okay, now if you're interested in doing your core self work, you can do the My Authentic Self course in the Academy, which I'll put down below later. But what you can do to start off, what you can do is, let me just grab this for you so you can see it, is use this meme, which I've got in the free resource library, on how to process difficult emotions. This will get you started, okay? Now, I'll just show it to you so that you can see it. Now, this meme, okay, this infographic is in the free resource library for you, all right, under infographics, and it's called How to Process Difficult Emotions, right? So everything that I talk about today, you're going to be able to go into the free resource library and start there. And for those further along their recovery journey who want to go deeper and really connect to their core self, you want to go in and do the course My Authentic Self. Okay, now I've been doing that course for years, and I've recently redone it with all of my admins, and it's just been amazing. Because it's really intentional about our recovery and removing things that don't align with our core self. Okay, so this morning, this is the bit where it gets really interesting. It starts last Sunday. I was messaged to asked would I come and do a seminar for the Department of Health in Makassar, Indonesia. Okay, so I will be working with a translator, and which I'm looking forward to, and I'm also going to be presenting to a wide variety of professionals in their community to help with trauma and recovery from COVID-19 in their community. So what happens to our brain? Okay, now remember, our brain is like this muscle that gets exercised literally from everything that happens in our life. And it's like having an intelligent muscle that holds on to things so that it can keep us safe. All right, that's the prime thing we want to remember, that deep in the primitive part of our brain, it's wired in our childhood to keep us safe. All right, so then we know that we go from being kept safe into developing fight, flight, freeze, or fawn responses to what happens in our day-to-day life. And then when we begin to recognize what our response is, we begin to be able to deal with that. And when I say deal with it, I don't mean it's like, going to the bank and having bills handed out, dealt to you. I mean, in a deeper internal sense, we begin to be able to identify what's happening inside of us. And then we get to choose what we do with that. Now, because I was asked to do this seminar, it means that my mind and my intelligent muscle up here has to begin to wrap itself around all the details that are involved in doing this, because it's new. when we have complex trauma, our mind and our brain, literally our brain, doesn't have a roadmap. So it's going to have automatic unconscious responses to what we're doing, even if we as an adult are feeling, yes, this is great, my next step, and, you know, I'm going to take all of you with me and we're going to have a voice. Might only be a small voice, but we're going to have a voice about what happens, okay, for others in the world who need help with collective trauma recovery, right? So we can be excited as an adult, we can be connected to our core self, but here's the big thing. Our brain is still wired at this damn primitive level to keep us safe. So what happens? What's happened throughout the week? Well, I woke up this morning and I'd had this nightmare, and I was like lying in bed going through all the different parts of the nightmare. Now, this is where you want to go into the free library and grab this, all right? So for those who've just tuned in, you want to go into the free library, How to Process Difficult Emotions. And for those who are further along, you want to do the My Authentic Self-Recovery course to get in deeper to what is keeping you from your core self. So even if you've read Bessel van der Kolk, he says we have this essential self that's stronger than the trauma, and it is. And we can do the work. So because I know how to go in and get back to my core self, even though I had a nightmare and my thinking brain's offline, the limbic system's full blown and we're all emotional, I went in and I sat there quietly and I said, okay, let's process this one step at a time. What happened in the nightmare? What was I feeling in the nightmare? What was going on? And I have a whole process to do that, right? So as I'm going through the process and I'm looking for the core answer about why my brain keeps shutting down, going into fawn mode, which is shut down, I went, I need to know this answer, why? And when I found the answer, it just blew me away. And I was like, oh my goodness. So the nightmare, so this is the contents you will need. The contents of the nightmare, you need to be able to look at the emotions that are coming from the nightmare. So what is it? What is the message that it's trying to give me? What is the brain trying to let me know that there is fear around? Or for me in particular, this was, what is the brain trying to let me know around the wound? Okay, what is the wound that me going out into public and talking about complex trauma and recovery from COVID-19, what's the wound that's being, pressed unconsciously that I don't know? So when I went in and I did all my work layer upon layer, the answer was the brain is still in survival mode because it's trying to stop me from gaining another abandonment wound. And when I went that, and you can feel it all come through your body. See, our body holds on to so much. When I could feel it all flowing out of my body because I could recognize the wound, because I could give the emotions names, because it's validation of what's happening internally for me, I just about sat up in bed and got on I'm actually dressed to go for a walk, sat up and went, yes, I'm out the door. You've got that motivation, that fire to get out the door, do your walk, do the trauma-informed movement, and get stuck into doing the rest of the seminar that I have to write, because the emotions have been validated that this is what's happening. My brain is trying to stop me from having another abandonment wound. And I just went, that just blew me away. It was like, oh my goodness, our brain is so protective of us. And I never knew that even stepping into new things was going to bring up patterns, beliefs, thoughts, emotions that have been long held on to. Now, this is the important part of recovery for us. We need to be able to have our core self so that we can process this, and then we can get up and go, yeah, I don't have to stay in fawn mode. I don't have to stay asleep all day. I can get up and I can get on with the one next thing because I know I'm safe to do this work. I know, we can affirm all the management things that we have in place, all the strategies we have in place, the structure we have in place, and that we are absolutely safe to free and embrace life, even though our brain doesn't have a mud map for it. Now, the crucial bit of this is that when we have that nightmare, our thinking brain goes offline and we are highly emotional. So our whole limbic system is like panic stations alert, this could happen. It's preempting possibilities. So we have to be able to have our core self, and we have to be able to say, that's not who I am, but I am going to validate my emotions, and I am going to sit here so that I understand what's happening internally for me. Okay? So I understand this is probably all like, wow, this is hard, but this is important for our recovery further down the track, okay? Some of this you can put in place early in recovery, definitely. Nightmares and getting our thinking brain back online is important. So for me, I'll go for a walk this afternoon, and then I'll do trauma-informed movement. And I know that my limbic brain and my thinking brain are back reconnected and everything's going in an order. And one of the things for me that I really notice when my thinking brain's offline, so the prefrontal cortex just isn't happening and connected, is balance. My balance is out of whack. And, I can be working effectively, I can be seeing clients effectively and everything, but for some reason the thinking brain isn't fully connected in and the balance is out. And I'll bump into doorways or I hit my leg on the bed or something, and I go, wow, this is so, so important that we retrain our brains, that we are safe to keep our cognitive functions engaged in our process, right? So remember, when we're babies, our only language is emotional, okay? And then carrying on from yesterday's video, where if we don't have a mother's love and our mother's wound is so deep, so my mother's wound was so deep from her mum, whose wound was so deep from her mum, that even the experience of showing love would have felt alien to her. So even if she had this baby here, it would have felt alien to her to love this child because she doesn't know what love is. My mum never experienced that from her mum. And I say this with deep sadness in my heart because my mum's passed, my grandmother's still alive, and my grandmother's attitude is, I hated your mother. And I'm like, how can you hate your own child? That just does my head in. But then I know from history that my grandmother's mother deserted 4 daughters in the middle of nowhere. So imagine the wound back then. No internet, no TVs, no electricity, no nothing, okay? And so we begin to understand that that statement that they were doing the best they can always drives me nuts, because love is always a choice. But now I'm beginning to understand, when for generations there's been no expression of emotional love, then love would have felt very unsafe to them. So we are the generation that changes this, and we get to put love back into our life and love into our children's lives. We may not always get it right, but we always will have raw and real conversations with our kids about connection, and that we're learning too. We are learning all the way along this track. Okay, I love you all heaps. I will put the links for the free library so you can grab that infographic to help you process these challenging emotions from nightmares. I'll put the link for My Authentic Self and the free library. That's it. I think that's it. Yeah, down below so that you can grab them. And if you need to, journal. Okay, so journal out the process of dealing with the challenging emotions, because it puts substance, is the best way I can put it. So when it's in front of me, I can see it, and then I can begin to go, yeah, I really understand. That's how I'm feeling internally. It gives us this option to process our emotions that just sitting on them and mulling them through doesn't have. So I spent decades journaling, and it was so worth it to help me understand what was happening internally for me. Have the most gorgeous day. I've got to run and go for a walk and do my trauma-informed movement and get back and finish the seminar. And thank you all for joining in. I love you heaps, and I value your prayers over the next few days so that I take us all and the information that the public need, the professionals need, to help us be recovered in our mental health. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.